to our listeners, Dr. Burke, Dr. Mark Burke, is the spokesperson on finance for the Democratic Alliance. Welcome to Radio Fynbos, Dr. Burke.
Good to be with you.
Thank you so much. So now the DA has been banging on the drum for fuel relief for weeks. And today the minister blinked. How are you feeling about the R3 cut?
We are pleased that the minister has listened to reason. We are also aware that South Africans are in for pain at the pumps as of today. Fuel is set to increase by more than R3 and diesel by more than R7, but that would have been more than R6 and more than R10 respectively. And so a measure of relief was needed, and we're glad that it's been able to be accommodated by the minister.
Yes, so you mentioned exactly that even with a R3 discount, diesel is still going to be over R4 tonight. So is this really a relief or just a smaller disaster?
It's probably more like a smaller disaster, as you say. I don't think we've actually quantified the effects on the economy of especially the diesel price going up by more than R7. It's not 4, it's in fact 7. And that's a problem because a lot of our industries are reliant on diesel. So, the agri-industry, likewise the mining industry. There's also parts of the country that's burning diesel in open turbines to keep the lights on. And so this will be a massive economic shock. It would have been an even bigger economic shock, but also a household shock if we hadn't done anything.
That's right.
So the average motorist would be paying, if they have a 50-liter tank, they would be paying R150 more every time they filled up. And if it's a 100-liter tank, it's R300 more. In cities where people commute, they often have to fill up their tanks once a week. And so you're looking at a household saving because of this measure of about R600 every month. Now, I use the word saving in a measured way because the fact is the price has gone up. And so a litre of petrol will be more than R3 more expensive, but it would have been even more disastrous had we done nothing. And also the signal that we'd be sending that while some other countries such as Namibia and Australia have implemented exactly this 50% reduction in their fuel levies, if we sent the signal that this government won't do anything, then I think that would have been really problematic. But none of that is to say that South Africans aren't staring down the barrel of a very painful gun.
Yes, and then also, Dr. Burke, our concern now is what happens on the 5th of May when there's this temporary relief expires. Well, we cannot have a cliff edge where the prices suddenly rockets back up. So the minister says this costs the fiscus billions. You've been very vocal that we shouldn't fund this by taking on more debt. So, Dr. Burke, where is the money coming from? Are we robbing Peter to pay Paul, or what's happening?
Yeah, the minister has indicated that he's not sure himself where the money should come from. But we've given them a funded plan of how the estimated R6.5 billion a month, because of this R3 measure, can be substituted without increasing taxes or without increasing our debt. And there are many pots of money sitting around, we have no doubt, but the compensation fund is a poorly run entity. It's overcapitalized. It retains large annual surpluses, and Treasury allows it to do so. Treasury can simply refuse to let the compensation fund retain its surpluses, an entity subject to adverse audit findings. And just in their statements in the last year, they've indicated 21.7 billion rand in surpluses sitting there. Yeah. That's 3 months worth of relief. Sure. The CETAs, which we've said, these training authorities, we've said for the longest time they should be scrapped. The president has started saying he wants to look at reforming them. Those entities have 6.7 billion sitting as surpluses according to their latest statements, but it also costs about 20 billion rand to run the 20 plus CETAs that aren't really adding any value and as we say, subject to multiple SIU investigations and also deeply corrupt. So that's 4 months worth of relief right there. There's also a program called the Target and the Responsible Savings Review Program, a program that we've insisted on over the last budget cycle with the Treasury. and it looks at what departments can be cut. It doesn't yet have the teeth that we envisaged, but that program has identified over the medium term 12 billion rand in savings. So that also equates to another 2 months worth of relief.
Yeah.
And then there's the ghost workers that keep popping up. PRASA alone identified more than 3,000 ghost workers on their system. And that ghost worker audit needs to be rolled out to the more than 250 local government municipalities and the more than 700 state-owned entities. We have no doubt when they do that, the quantum, which we haven't yet been able to quantify, will be a sizable amount and will add to further relief. But we've proposed, as I've now explained, more than 6 months worth of relief that doesn't increase taxes, doesn't increase debt, does require the political will to shut down patronage pots where the cadres are eating.
Yeah. So, Dr. Burke, just maybe finally, do you think there might be a permanent scrap of the levies?
I think we're at the height of a global fuel crisis, and it is my position, but also generally a good policy-making position, that one does not make life choices when running uphill.
Yeah.
And so the immediate thing that we need to do now is to try and provide as much relief as we can to South Africans, which, because to a large extent, because of sustained DA pressure, the minister has now succumbed to. Your question is whether we should now institutionalize a permanent fuel levy relief mechanism, and it's not a bad suggestion, especially if you consider what portion, the total take at the pump towards the fiscus and the road accident fund before this measure was about R6.35, so at about 20 rand a litre, that's 30% odds. It goes to the state coffers. And there's an argument to be made that that's a disproportionately high percentage at the pump. The counter-argument to this is that there are certain industries that are able to not pay tax almost at all, one of them being the taxi industry. And when I say the taxi industry, I don't mean people who ride in taxis, or even the taxi drivers themselves. I'm talking about the taxi bosses and owners. And there's an argument that says if you don't have a fuel levy, then that industry pays almost no tax. This is the only way in which you can tax that industry. But even on that argument, the counter-argument to that is that taxi owners are a very small percentage of fuel consumers in South Africa. And so it's a nuanced, long policy discussion, not appropriate, I think, for the juncture we're at now, which is urgent relief, because the factors largely outside of our control. What we can control is our spending and how much we charge South Africans in a crisis. But we stand ready to have that long policy conversation in a mature way. But that's what it will have to be. We'll have to be mature about how we think about it.
Dr. Burke, thank you for joining us here on Radio Fynbos. And we cannot predict the future, but we can plan ahead. So thank you for what you guys are doing, and thank you for joining us.
Continue with you.
Bye.
Bye.